Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet?
I love people as I meet them one by one. People are just wonderful as individuals. You see the whole...
My great aspiration, my greatest ambition is to be so good. Now, in that way, I'm tiresome, as I suppose, to live with, because I want to be a fantastic human being.
I am the greatest.
We're not disputing that, Cassius, but how does Sonny Liston feel about it?
He can't feel but one way, and let's take everything I say and like it. Because February the 25th, I'm going to take back my job. I'm the champ. He's no champ. He's a tramp.
When you see men fall, don't laugh. Learn. Learn. Because you're on your way up. And the things that tempt people to fall, you and I are not free from that temptation.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their own strange machines. How did they get up there?
What's good? What's good? What's good, man? Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. We at the middle of the week. You already know what time it is. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. I hope all is well with everybody in attendance. This is not my show. No. The lady of the hour, she is the one that is orchestrating this discussion. And I saw the video and I kind of geeked out. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm a big nerd when it comes to seeing like Mother Nature kick us in the face and say, hello, I'm here. Y'all think y'all got it all figured out? Watch this. And that's exactly what that was. Let me go ahead and get this out the way real quick. I'm going to bring her up here in just a second. If you want to reach out to her for any questions, anything science related, you want to keep in contact. If you want to reach out for topics, ideas, anything, everything at the bottom will bring you exactly where you need to be for those discussions. Outside of all of that, shout outs to Jenny, my poets, my writers. We will be doing the virtual open mic this Friday. Just wanted to put that out there too. Sensation. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Sydney, you're up. I do have a little clip to kind of go along with this, but yeah, what's up?
Not much. My son's right outside the door, so ignore him if you hear him. I'm doing pretty good. Easy day. Everest, you want to play over there? You play downstairs.
Easy is good. It wasn't so easy for me, but hey, we here, right?
Yeah. Went food shopping today, but other than that, not much happened. I've just been watching TV and cleaning the house, making sure it doesn't fall apart around me. But the kids have been good today, so pretty easy. Not too stressful, which is good.
That's what's up. I know why you were so.
Oh yeah, I was about to say it, but I am super stoked for this for this topic. So
I was about to say, I know now. I know why you were so excited for it. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like after I saw it, I did watch it a couple more times just because. Like y'all don't understand, you like Mother Nature is not a joke. It is not a joke. And I got the clip. I can play the clip, or do you want to talk about it first, or should I play the clip and then you can just do your thing?
Play it first. That way people know what we're talking about. I can give a little bit of a preface first, so they know what they're looking at. So this clip that he's about to show is from a recent earthquake in, I believe it's Myanmar. And it was a 7.5 magnitude earthquake on March 28th, I believe, of this year. So for those of you that aren't familiar with earthquake intensity, a 7.5 is quite a large earthquake. An earthquake at a 7 range can knock down bridges, can easily knock down houses. It can cause ground rupturing, stuff like that. So it's quite damaging when it happens. Earthquakes can get bigger than this one, but this was quite a sizable earthquake. So we're going to see some footage from that earthquake.
Now, I want y'all to pay close attention, right? You're going to have to really look at this. It's going to be actually, the more that the guy broke it down, you can see different things happening from left to right. But I think it's what I saw on the right that really got me like juiced up. But yeah, pay attention to the video, man. Like it's only a few seconds, so I can play it one more time after this, just so you'll kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah, we could show it.
Let me bring it up.
Then, we could show it, talk about it, and then show it one more time to once they have all the info.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to play this right now, and then once it's done, I'll turn it over to you. Told you it was pretty quick. I didn't want YouTube to try to strike me, but yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm gonna let you do your thing, and then I'll bring it back up afterwards when you're ready for
it. My mouse fritzed out and like dragged my screen all the way off the page for a second. I'm like, whoa, where'd I go? So this clip, it was really quick, but it depicted a surface fracture, which is incredibly rare to capture. Most often, like 99.9% of the time, when people get footage of earthquakes, it's very typically just the shaking movement. Like you usually see these videos inside of the home, and it's often from the perspective of the camera moving with everything. So for this video, I think we'll also post the link so you guys can see the loop of it, because it really helps to see it over and over again rather than the short clip definitely doesn't do it justice because there is so much going on at the same time. But there is a very, very clear sliding of the land where the house where the camera is, you can clearly see another section of land right next to it getting moved at least 50 feet, which is astonishing to catch on camera, especially with the camera sitting still, not actually moving with the earth, and then you actually get to see the earth itself moving. That it was absolutely incredible, like groundbreaking footage. Like, this will show a lot to the scientific community in regards to this type of earthquake. This particular earthquake is called a lateral strike slip fault. So basically, some fault lines are lateral faults and they rub along each other. This particular one, they're pressing together and they're sliding past each other. So that's why you're seeing that movement where the earthquake, I don't know where it was on the fault line that this particular earthquake ruptured, how close or far this particular video was from the epicenter. But you can clearly see that movement where farther up in the video's view, you can actually see, I think it was like either right before the gates and then a little bit, actually no, it was like farther down the streets. There's some houses in the left corner of the picture, and if you look at the ground in front of them, you can actually see the ground buckling upwards when the earthquake happens, and that's from the plates actually squishing into each other. That is the process that causes mountains. That is the process that causes the ground to, if you have two that are coming at each other like this, they'll push up. Whereas if you have one that's more under the other, then you'll have one start diving under the other. That is what we have in places like Japan, Washington, Alaska. You have these continental plates. And these are the most dangerous types of earthquakes on these types of fault lines, because instead of the fault line being like 300 miles this way, you could have it be like 800 miles underground. And so you have this whole plate, because basically the size of the earthquake depends on how much land touches each other and moves, because basically the earthquake is that friction breaking and that shock wave from that breakage going out into the environment. So if you have more land touching each other and more land rupturing, you're going to have a bigger earthquake. So when you have diving fault lines, you can have much, much longer fault lines and thus bigger earthquakes. That's why the San Andreas fault is only capable of having up to a large scale 8.0, but would not be able to produce the size of earthquakes that we've seen in places like South America and Alaska and Japan. The largest earthquake ever recorded in Earth history was in 1960, I believe, in Valdivia, not Peru, Chile, I think. Chile. Yeah. It was roughly, yeah, as I said, it was 9.5 on average on the Richter scale. And it was incredibly powerful. I can't even do it justice by explaining what it looked like. The pictures definitely depict how severe this was. So I definitely think it's worth looking at if you want to later, just to see how completely destroyed these cities were. My favorite depictions are of the 1964 earthquake in Alaska, because those you can actually see like blocks of land. Just it basically looks like a kid dropped their toy box out onto the ground, but they're actually like pieces of the earth, and you can get the scale because there's trees sticking out of the top of all these big blocks of earth. So I can't even imagine what that would feel like standing next to that, like a rupture in the earth that's big enough to like take trees with it. But the earth is very, very capable of some incredible feats. So for us to have caught this on camera is revolutionary. This type of footage is very, very important for scientists to understand how earthquakes work. Especially with earthquakes, it can be very hard to... One second. Everest, go downstairs. It can be really difficult to study them because, unlike storms, earthquakes happen in a matter of seconds. You can't predict them. I mean, you can to a very, very tiny degree, but it's not like a storm where you can look up, you can see it, you know how big it's going to be, you know what the wind speeds are, you know, like you basically can kind of guess where it's going to go based on where everything else is. And it happens frequently enough that people kind of know how to prepare. They don't like if there's a storm coming, you don't have people going like, oh my God, it's going to rain. What are we going to do? Like people don't have the same panic factor that people have for earthquakes or stuff like tsunamis, where people see them coming and they're just like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? So it is really important for scientists to understand how earthquakes work, how they affect the land, how they affect buildings. And earthquakes are while they're not very well known about, the one thing that's nice about earthquakes is if you retrofit buildings correctly, if you build buildings to match the potential earthquake situations wherever you are, if you build them well, they will protect you extremely well during an earthquake. With some speeds of winds, such as with the highest category of tornado, not category, the same level of tornado. Like if you had a tornado with like 300 miles an hour winds, it would practically level anything. Like anything that was there, brick building or not, it would take out everything. But with earthquakes, at least for the most part, unless you're unlucky to be on top of like a landslide where the land actually like gives way, it is possible to make earthquake-proof buildings. Japan is a fantastic example of that. They're rocked by earthquakes very regularly because literally their entire island is on the edge of a plate, and they also have some plates on the other side of their island as well, I believe. So they're very geologically active, and they have become very skilled with creating buildings that withstand earthquakes. There was a 9.2, I believe. It was like 9.2 or 9.1 earthquake. There's one in 2011. I think there was also one towards 2020, but I don't remember the exact year. But they did have a large earthquake recently, and they were showing footage of these skyscrapers swaying back and forth like feet during this earthquake, but they didn't collapse because of the way they made those buildings. They were able to protect the people that were inside, and they didn't have to worry about it. Earthquakes are only deadly if the house that you're standing in is not going to withstand that earthquake. That's the one nice thing about earthquakes, is unlike storms, which bring many, many different hazards, hail the size of tennis balls, or wind speeds 300 miles an hour, and lightning and flooding and rain, all that fun stuff. Earthquakes pretty much only bring damage if your house sucks. There can be rare, like it can release gas from the earth, but that's extraordinarily rare. I've only heard like 1 or 2 instances of that. So yeah, if you have a house that's really set up to be prepared for an earthquake, most people should do fine. Really, the biggest aspects of I was about to say that the biggest aspects of earthquakes is the fact that it'll take out necessities. You won't have access to supermarkets, to electricity most often. It can cut off water and gas lines. And with earthquakes, the thing you want to prepare for is more of the disruption of services. You need to be able to live without electricity, live without potable water, live without access to the typical methods of getting food. So for earthquakes, some of the best preparation, besides knowing how to protect yourself in the immediate moments during the earthquake, is to make sure that you have the supplies to withstand the impacts post-earthquake. So that's one of the biggest considerations with earthquakes, is just making sure that you have your house set up to not fall on top of you if you are in an area where you can have earthquakes. So for example, because I live in California, I don't want to put heavy objects on high bookshelves. I don't even like having tall bookshelves. The only tall bookshelf I have is literally like this one in the wall. But we don't put like heavy things on top of stuff. And I don't do it, even though I probably should. But you can get like cabinet closers that keep them from swinging open and dropping all your glassware onto the floor. You also would want to have a first aid kit for any injuries sustained, which, I mean, you'd want in your house anyways for any particular problematic disasters. Food and water, at least 3 days. To be on the safe side, always say 2 weeks. But you'll want to make sure that you have supplies on hand for any sort of disaster. Yeah, so I've seen people that put their TV on a stand like right over their bed, and that gives me so much anxiety when I see that, thinking about like, what if there was like an earthquake, or like even your house just gets rocked a little bit from like a truck going by or something. It's just no, just for your safety, don't do that. My parents were in the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1979 or 89. And my mom, her building was on landfill. The thing about earthquakes is it changes how it shakes based on the material that the shock waves are moving through. If you are on bedrock, if you're on like a stable foundation type material, granite or many of the like hard igneous type rocks, the earthquake doesn't move that type of land as much. But if you have water within that material, you're going to experience a lot more shaking. It's like a bowl of jelly. If you have a bowl of, like, if you have a cake and you like shake the cake back and forth, the cake's not really going to like wiggle back and forth. But if you have Jell-O, which has a lot more water in it in comparison to the cake, it's going to like jiggle back and forth. That's basically what happens when you have land that's saturated with water or is finely packed, like it's sand or silt. if it's river material, organic material, soil on the side of a mountain with rocks underneath. Basically anything with like loose layers or loose material, you can be subject to liquefaction, which is when the ground literally turns into a Newtonian fluid, which if anyone has ever played with oobleck, which is like the cornstarch and water, where if you like squeeze it, it gets hard, but then you relax and it like runs out of your hands. That's what non-Newtonian fluid is, where it has a bond just enough to hold itself together and look like a solid, but it's actually a liquid. And so that's what the same thing with like quicksand. That's the same idea. That's what happens or can happen to homes and people and stuff during an earthquake, where it shakes and then the houses or whatever literally like settle into the ground, like they sink into the ground. That's a huge problem. It can also cause road buckling. And that's what my mom witnessed when she was in Loma Prieta. They were on landfill, and when she went out to the parking lot after the building had been shaking, she ran out, and literally the parking lot was like waves on an ocean, and the cars were bouncing up and down, up off the pavement as the land was shaking. And that was a 6.9. So that was about 0.6 less than the earthquake that I showed you in that video. So it was about 600 times less powerful. The earthquake that I showed you, 600 times more powerful than that Loma Prieta. So you can imagine how much energy that would generate. Yeah, it's earthquakes are one of my favorite topics. I find them incredibly fascinating and one of the coolest examples of physics in action. There's so much involved with earthquakes that most people don't even know about, which is it's super cool. One of my favorite facts about earthquakes is there's actually two different types of waves. When the earthquake happens, there's basically the sound wave, and then there's the shock wave, and so you actually have two different sets of waves coming at different times, and you can see it if you catch it on I forgot what type of imaging it is, but there's a certain type of imaging that I think it measures like energy waves. You can actually see the earthquake traveling down the line. It literally looks like ripples in a pond. It is incredible to see. So yeah, I am incredibly excited about this video. This is a really revolutionary video for scientists across the board in their understanding of how Earth ruptures, how it looks during an earthquake, and I'm just super excited. It's super cool.
Like I said, I watched that video at least 7 times because I wanted to see everything that was happening in different parts. When you actually see the earth move, not like when construction is kind of using a jackhammer and it's like, and you see that one little spot kind of just shaking. No, I'm talking about a quarter mile worth of land going in one direction. It's not CGI, it's not anything computer generated. It's actually happening right in front of your face. That is different. And then when you switch over, if you go look over to the right side and you go all the way to the back, you can see smoke coming up out of, I guess that's the dirt kind of coughing up a little bit, and then you see stuff falling off of property. Where do you think you're going to hide? There is no running away from that. I don't care how fast you are. You're not getting out of harm's way if one of those decide to hit you. Like, I remember, and we spoke about this when it happened here. It was all the way in Virginia. It started in Virginia somewhere, and then it made its way all the way here.
There was an earthquake in 1812 or it was over the course of December 1811 until like February or March 1812. There was a severe outbreak of earthquakes around the Mississippi area. It was, I think it was Missouri. Basically, this earthquake, or these sets of earthquakes, were so powerful that it actually rang bells in Boston. So you have earthquakes that are happening at the Mississippi River affecting churches in Boston. I'm like, that is so crazy to me. But these earthquakes, it was Missouri. It was basically where, I think that's Illinois, Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri kind of meet. That's where those earthquakes happened. Again, this was 1812, and there were 4 earthquakes that were 7 or greater. There was, 7.5, so that was the size of the one in the video. That one happened in Arkansas, and then 2 days later? No, the same day, they had a 7, also in Arkansas. And then in January, they had a 7.3 near Illinois. And then in February 1812, then they had a 7.5 in Missouri. And all of these, as I said, were they damaged videos in South Carolina. They did damage in Tennessee, Indiana, Missouri, Alabama. It rang bells in Boston. They detected it in Maine. So it was it was a pretty substantial set of earthquakes, and it was so powerful that it actually reversed the direction of the Mississippi temporarily, because it caused I don't know if it dammed the river or if it just shifted the course of the river, but it basically ran back upstream for a couple. I don't know how long it took for it to go back, but I know it was for a bit. And then also because of how the earthquake was interacting with the land, it would create what are called sand blows, where as the land hits against each other, it shoots these geysers of sand and water up into the sky, kind of like traditional water geysers, but it's with sand instead of, or wet sand instead of just water. So it had some incredible impacts, and those were about the same size as the one that we saw in this video, except they were different types. Because the New Madrid quakes are caused because the North American plate is really large, and so it basically sinks in the middle. So that's why you have the mountains, and then you have the Midwest. So it's almost like a bowl, because then you have that, and then you have the Colorado mountains, and then you have the Kentucky mountains, and then you have the coastlines. So we kind of have a bowl with a lip. That's how the U.S. is shaped. And where was I going with that? And so the fault lines are actually caused because it's basically when it's sinking in, it kind of breaks apart, and it's kind of being pulled. So there's like fractures kind of in the center where it's sagging. And so that's where those earthquakes are coming from. But with Malaysia, it's from two plates actually like running into each other. So that's the difference between the two, because this one wasn't actually on like a fault line. The New Madrids were more on intercontinental earthquake. But it was still the same power that of the one in Malaysia. Unfortunately, in the New Madrid quake, our houses were not made that well, so the communities didn't do that well, or at least the homes didn't. Luckily, back then they were able to like rebuild pretty quickly, so it wasn't as devastating as it could have been if it hit now. It would definitely be a billion trillion dollar disaster if that type of thing happened in the modern time period. But yeah, it's still a really, really incredible example of some earthquakes that we've had here in the US. And not many people even know about those earthquakes. Everyone knows about the Great San Francisco earthquake. Most people know about like the Japan earthquake, and some people might know about other earthquakes in other locations, but for the most part, people don't really like earthquakes. In California are synonymous, basically. Like whenever people think of earthquakes, they basically think, oh, California. So I always find it interesting when I hear about massive quakes in locations that people do not associate with earthquakes at all. Like when you think of the Midwest, you think of tornadoes, not earthquakes, but you can get those too. So yeah, it's earthquakes are pretty cool. It's always awesome when you get to see it in action, because it's one thing reading about it, and it's another thing like seeing the pictures of the aftermath, because you get to understand the raw power. But watching something that is supposed to be still, like you look at the ground that you walk on every day and it doesn't move, but like watching the earth just like I've watched the video so many times. I'm so happy that we have cameras everywhere now, and then we get to see stuff like this. All these phenomenon that have been studied, and like there's so many cool things on our earth that have been seen and reported and talked about for generations, and we've never had documentation of them. And people, for example, ball lightning. Ball lightning was a theory for generations. People had no idea what it was. People thought it was like spirits. People thought it was like alien. Like there's so many different theories, and it never was really recorded except for some written examples scattered through time. But now that we have cameras everywhere, they've been catching examples of ball lightning in storms all over the place. They've also discovered this was probably discovered maybe like 15 years ago, but they found out that while lightning discharges downwards out of the storm, it actually also discharges upwards into the sky above the storm. So there's like two different types of lightning, one coming down and one going out into space. So they're like, I just love, that's the only thing that I love about having cameras and monitoring everywhere, is that you finally get to have a glimpse of these awesome moments in our Earth's natural history happen in real time. And it's so cool. So lucky to see it and not have to experience it to see it.
It's still all right. Put it this way. If the planet decided that it didn't want to behave, we'd all be screwed. Bottom line. If the planet decided one day that it didn't want to be dormant, it just wanted to act up. There's nothing you could do about it. That's the scary part of it. You're not defeating lightning. You're not out swimming, or you're not going to be able to hold your breath if a tsunami hits. If there's a repeat of the fires that happened in California, there's only but so far you can go. If you really think about it, we play around with the elements way too much.
Yeah.
If volcanoes decided to just erupt, it would be a wrap for a lot of folks who live near them areas. All of that is gone. Not a mountain. Damn, I'm getting tongue twisted. There is not a amount of water that would be able to put that out. You're not slowing it down. This ain't Volcano with my man. I love that movie, by the way. You're not. Yeah, I don't see you being able to divert it by using orchestrated bombs in a succession on a street to kind of. We really blessed for real, and seeing that for myself, yeah, we do take this earth for granted. Really take it for granted.
I just double checked the earthquake. I said 7.5. It's actually 7.9. So it's a bit bigger than I thought. But I just wanted to correct myself.
7.9.
Yeah. I think that's about the size of the San Francisco earthquake in 1906. Yeah, 7.9. So that was about the size. So this earthquake was about the size of the San Francisco earthquake. That pretty much everyone on Earth knows. The one that destroyed San Francisco. Even though it technically wasn't the earthquake itself, it was the fire. Fun little story. They ruptured gas lines, and so part of the district, one of the districts caught on fire. And so because back in those days, they didn't have good firefighting services. They didn't have reliable water. Houses were made out of wood. So the fire got out of hand pretty quickly. They decided to set a fire within the city to like burn away in front of the fire line. That way it would basically the fire would get to this point and it would be all burned, so it'd burn itself out. And then the wind shifted. So basically they made a larger fire line that just swept through the city. So they unintentionally burned down more buildings than what should have happened, because they were trying to stop the buildings from burning. So in effect, they also like dynamited buildings, and some of those buildings weren't really damaged by the earthquake, but they were worried that they were going to fall down. So some of the buildings were even just destroyed by humans themselves. But that's not to say the earthquake didn't do any damage. The earthquake definitely, there's some, I have, trying to find it. I thought I brought it upstairs, but I don't have it with me at the moment. But I have a collection of the photos from San Francisco earthquake, and there are some amazing photos of the damage that that earthquake did. One of the nice things about the 1906 earthquake is it was one of the first widely photographed disasters. That's why it's so widely known. It was the first major earthquake in like modern times, I guess. But like, I guess it was more so the timing, because it really coincided with an explosion of scientific discovery. But it was introduced. It was basically like the breakthrough that really revolutionized the study of earthquakes. It almost kind of started the study of earthquakes. And as I said, it was one of the most widely photographed because once that happened, people flocked from all over the country to go gawk at the city and take pictures and stuff. So there's the city was very most of the city was photographed. Like, they got a great amount of detail through this series of photographs. You can actually see some of the streets like shifted over by 4 or 5 feet because they had their trolley systems. You could see the tracks, like they'd go this way and then they'd like right angle go that way and then they'd right angle. So little kids' toys, like just torn apart. That's what it looked like. But it was the earth itself. I always love depictions of earthquakes because it's so humbling just to realize how small we actually are. Being in human skin, you feel so big and profound and like, oh, I'm a human, I'm special, I'm better than all these animals, I'm smarter, I'm blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm wonderful. But then you see these types of disasters and it really just sinks in how mortal you are and how great and amazing this earth really is, and like how much we don't know about everything around us, how much we get to learn every day. So I always find studying disasters and impacts on society incredibly fun. Like, there's just so much you can see and understand between human behavior, the interactions with the city itself, the infrastructure, the physics behind it. It's pretty cool. I don't think we'll ever be able to control earthquakes because they're so, like, just to give you an idea, a size, I think it's a size 3. Let me see. The reason why we can't control earthquakes is because of the sheer intensity of earthquakes. We can cause small ones, like we can cause 1s, 2s, 3s from ground fracturing and stuff like that. But unless we like bombed the planet to the nth degree, like we would have to kill ourselves to cause an earthquake because it would take an incredible amount of power just directed into the earth that it would probably cause more problems than just an earthquake. I can't find. Oh, let's see. Okay, here it is. So a 7.0 earthquake releases the same amount of energy as 32 atomic bombs. So we would not be able to cause. We could cause it on certain types of fault lines, but on continental fault lines, we wouldn't be able to because the amount of power that it would take to shift land like that is not within our current capacity of power. When you, like, for example, when you build underground cities, we can only build into the first 1 to 3 miles of earth. Some of these earthquakes originate 10 to 15 miles under the earth. So we wouldn't even really be able to reach those areas where the earthquakes are caused. Some earthquakes can be as deep as 30 to 60 kilometers, which we can't even don't think we can even drill that deep. So we, like I said, we can cause small ones, but we would not have the capacity to cause anything more than like a 3. The deepest borehole in the world is, how many miles is that? Is 7 miles deep into the crust. So the borehole might be able to reach some of the fault lines, but not any of the highly consequential ones. So yeah, it would be very, very, very difficult for humans to actually cause a 6, 7, 8.0 earthquake without doing more damage to ourselves. But what was I going to say before that? Oh, also with the, let me double check my, I don't think they had insurance yet. I know that there's a whole thing with the San Francisco earthquake and insurance, but I can't remember the details exactly. I can't remember if it was the San Francisco earthquake was what encouraged people to start offering insurance for disasters, or if it was one of the first disasters that made them realize that the insurance companies were inadequate. But something along that line, I know it had an impact on the insurance company. Let's see. Out of the $235 million in losses, only $180 million was paid out in claims. Wow, that's crazy. The earthquake losses wiped out 47 years of industry profit in that one event. Oh, and as I was saying earlier, of the buildings destroyed, only 2% were because of the earthquake. The remaining 98% of the ones destroyed were destroyed by fire. Dynamite was used to level the buildings in the path of the fire in an attempt to create a fire break. This resulted in new fires and is believed to cause more damage than it prevented. Dynamite buildings were thankfully covered under the property policies, at least. But yeah, trying to think of anything else to say.
You ever see The Core? I don't know if anybody saw it.
The movie?
Yeah.
I think I did. Been a bit.
It's actually one of my faves. I can't believe I never even mentioned that one when we did the disaster movie thing. The Core was based on instability within the earth, and they had to build a drill to go into the earth to get to the core to get it restabilized. And they built this drill, had a laser attached to it. It had like 6 or 7 different compartments that it was designed to be able to handle the pressure that they would go under from going from one layer to going through the magma to going like it. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's fairly old, but if you're into those type of films, I would definitely suggest it. But it made me think about what you and Jen was talking about, especially with trying to recorrect or prevent the ground from, I don't know, pretty much doing what it wants. I think it's absolutely impossible to stop tectonic plates from shifting. I don't know how you would go about that. I don't
You
know if
wouldn't be
they.
able to.
Yeah, that's what
Because
I'm like.
it's like the release of stress. So once it's already happening, there's no way you can. It would be like stopping a bomb. It would be like as the bomb is exploding, trying to unexplode the bomb.
Right.
Oh,
So
that
I
was
guess
I said it in the chat, but this is very, very, very new. They just started releasing papers about this in the past couple of years. There have been associations made in the past, but this is the first like authentic research efforts. They have found that there's a connection between solar radiation and the Earth. There's a growing belief that there's a large amount of uranium in the core of Earth, just because uranium is one of the strongest, or is one of the heaviest materials in the universe. And so naturally it would be pulled towards the core of the Earth. And this uranium is highly reactive to the type of plasma that comes out of the sun. And they found that after there are solar flares, I believe positive polarity. The polarity does matter because the polarity will react to materials in the Earth differently. I believe it's positively charged particles will increase the incidences of earthquakes around the globe, particularly in those areas that are exposed to the radiation. So they're starting to believe that it has to do with the release of energy as the uranium reacts to the plasma particles, and it also the combination of heat, gases, and from the chemical reaction will shift underneath everything and basically like radiate out and cause earthquakes on the crust. And the Malaysian earthquake that we had, as well as there was one in Washington, there was one in China, there's also one in, I think it was near you actually. We've had a couple earthquakes recently that were connected with literally the day before each of those earthquakes there was a solar flare. So they're starting to collect evidence that the sun actually has an impact on tectonic movement, which I completely agree with. I very much believe this. If the Earth if the sun is able to affect, like it affects our tides, as well as the moon, obviously. But it affects all of the things around us. It affects the things in us and on us. It definitely has to affect the Earth, especially considering it takes 3 million Earths to fill the sun. Something that large is going to have an impact on us, undoubtedly. So I find that research incredibly cool, and I look forward to where they're going to go with that in the future. Because I've definitely felt through my life, I've always been into this stuff ever since I was little, earthquakes and storms and whatnot. I've always felt that the scientific research was oversimplified. I found it hard to believe that it was just as simple as like, oh yeah, all it is just things shifting around. And like, there has to be other aspects like under the earth and over the earth. And I've always wondered if our own cities are causing earthquakes and stuff, because they have found, for example, in New York City is sinking at a rate of like 1 inch a year because of the weight of the city itself. So we ourselves are capable of influencing the ground that we live on. So I also would not completely disregard the notion that we would be having a possible causatory reaction as well. What Jenny said, I will definitely have to cover that in another video because that is another set of fantastic, interesting research. They found both with, I think this is connected, but they've found that water will respond to emotions. The water molecules will actually disintegrate if it's exposed to like negative behavior and negative energy. But it'll, the water will look like, they basically look like snowflakes almost. If you talk nicely to them basically and you act kind to the water, it actually looks more put together, more like refined and pretty and whatnot. I will definitely have to go into that in another episode because the research is absolutely fascinating. There's all sorts of stuff about both water and plants and the like emotions and feelings and energy basically being a physical thing, a physical aspect that affects us and everything that exists, every living thing. So yeah, that's another thing we'll have to go into in the future. But I can't think of anything else I want to add at the moment. Did you have anything else?
Nah. Like all I could say was I'm glad I got to see it for myself. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to nature, I love nature. I love to be out there in the trees. I like to be away from the city. I'm not big on traffic and the diluted the air from all the cigarette smoking and all that. I prefer to be out in the wilderness. So anything involving storms, rain, volcanoes, hurricanes, I might not know as much on it, but I am highly interested in it. And to actually see the ground move the way it did was definitely worth those little seconds. I wish I could have gave y'all a longer time frame on it.
Could probably post the
because there
link.
is more.
It's all over right now. I've been seeing it go every YouTube, TikTok, everything. So if you Google, let's see, lateral fault Malaysia, I think that should probably pop it up. Add video. Yeah, if you look up surface rupture Malaysia video, that should bring it up. And there's also some YouTubers that have their own like detailed discussion. So if you wanted to know more, you could definitely look at one of those seismologists that have plenty of information to share. But yeah, check out the video. It is spectacular. I still nerd out about it, and I've seen it like 100 times. So very, very worth watching. And also watch it multiple times. Look at all the details. Watch the damage that it causes. Like there's a power line that like falls over on its, like crumples. There's some houses in the background. You can see them like shifting and their windows break, and there's like cracks forming in the sidewalk. It's worth watching. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we did.
Definitely. And just so I can, give y'all a little something. I'll play the clip. It's only but 3-4 seconds, but once you see it, it's kind of hard to not want to see more of it. I know that's how I am, because my curiosity makes me want to investigate further. But Sydney, she did an absolute phenomenal job tonight. This was a conversation that I'm glad we had.
I found my book.
She poured it.
One more thing I want to add, just if you guys, I don't think I said this, but if you guys are ever in an earthquake, cover your head, cover your face, cover the back of your neck. That is the most common injury, is flying glass, hitting people, falling objects, landing on people. So if you are ever in a very large earthquake, make sure you cover. You have to crouch, get away from tall things. Preferably, if you're not in a very nice, stable house, leave the building when it's safe to do so. But yeah, also, if you own your home, turn off the gas. Fires are a huge problem after. And as I said, make sure you have supplies to protect yourself. But yeah, don't. I mean, can't really do anything like in storms. You can't really. Don't be stupid. Don't go out in an earthquake. So this is one of my favorite ones because it really shows you just the power. So this was the San Francisco City Hall after the earthquake, and you can see the whole frame, the rocks the outside just like fell off the outside of the building. And then other one. So this just shows you how bad it was. So literally out of this whole picture, there's only one church kind of in the middle that survived. All of those lines, those were all streets. Those all used to be houses and buildings. This is Nob Hill. I don't know if you're familiar with San Francisco, but Nob Hill is very well known. It's one of their like landmarks. But yeah, San Francisco earthquake photos are also very cool to look at. I also suggest that.
Well, y'all heard it here first. Well, not first, but after you go check it out for yourself, you'll understand why we felt so passionate about talking about it tonight. You know, I want to say thank you, Sydney, for doing these segments, sharing your knowledge with us. It's not going to go to waste. Jenny, as usual, your commentary and interactions throughout the show is always welcome and appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who pulled up. Oh yeah. Everybody who pulled up, thank you for tapping in with us. We try to bring you a mixture of things throughout the week, you know, and I love Wednesdays. Wednesdays are a breath of fresh air because with everything that's going on, it's nice to shift from one thing to another. That being said, do me a solid. If you are not following me on YouTube, make sure that you tap in. The link is in my bio on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching. All you got to do is click on it. It'll take you to Assembly of Excellence. It'll only take you a couple seconds. Or follow me on all social media platforms. Doesn't really make a difference. If you're interactive, I'm interactive. We're not Hollywood over here. Everybody's pretty chill. We'll be back, me and Jason, tomorrow. I might have my other partner on. I don't know yet. And yeah, virtual open mic. If there's any poets in the building, hit me up. Friday, 8 o'clock. We coming back. So lock in. Definitely want to see y'all there, man. Friday, chill day. Outside of all of that, you guys enjoy the rest of your evenings. Do me a solid if you would. It only takes but a second. Good days. We up out of here, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of your night. Have a blessed evening and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Our muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their own strange machines. How did they